There is a popular African saying that if there is no enemy within, then the enemy without can do us no harm. This is just to say that if somebody outside or an unknown person can get access to hurt you, usually, yes, usually, there is somebody in your inner circle who would have betrayed you to that person. Take note of this proverb if you've never heard it before. And then, at the end of this story, you would understand why it's so relevant as an introduction to today's true crime story. This is the story of Georgina Asso, a young senior high school graduate who had said goodbye to her parents to go for an interview at a nursing institution for admission purposes, but would return dead, actually murdered, as a corpse, and the story would unravel and it will blow your mind. If you are ready for this trip, buckle up and let's go. On this fateful morning, Georgina, a senior high school graduate, bade her parents and family goodbye, that she was embarking on a journey they had previously discussed and agreed on for her to attend an interview at a nursing institution at Mankesim in Cape Coast, one of the regions in Ghana, West Africa. Everything seemed normal, given that this was how the process was. Now, Georgina had discussed with her family that she would go through Kumasi to see her sister who lives there with her fiancé and just say hello and then spend some few time with them and then continue her journey, which Georgina did. She passed through Kumasi to say hello to her sister and her sister's boyfriend, whom she also knew and who also knew her. So at this point, it was a one big family affair. Everything was nice and cozy. Fast forward, Georgina then decided to move from her sister's place at Kumasi to continue her actual planned original trip to the nursing institution to attend the interview and hope that the admission that she's pursuing into the nursing institution would actually be successful. Now, she did just that, and she left for Mankesim to this nursing institution as originally planned. Georgina would arrive at her destination safely and go on to have her interview for admission. Now, after the interview, it is alleged that Georgina ran into a family friend who was also on the campus of the nursing institution she had come to for the interview. Upon noticing Georgina, this family friend engaged her and they were in a conversation together for some time, with this family friend allegedly actually offering to escort Georgina to board a vehicle back to her parents' home. At this point, it is reported that the boyfriend of Georgina's sister called Georgina on phone and told her that she shouldn't bother boarding any public transports, but that he himself was already driving from Kumasi to Mankesim in the central region to pick her and send her back home with him to her sister, who is his fiancée. Everything still seems to be in place. One big family, right? No. Fast forward. Georgina then tells this family friend who she had met on the campus that it's no longer necessary you escort me to board a vehicle because my would-be brother-in-law is actually coming to pick me and drive me all the way back, which sounds lovely. So this family friend just left, said goodbye, and then left. Now, days would go by. Georgina is missing. Calls to her phone are not going through. The family begins to get worried, and frantic efforts begin to be made by them in their quest to trace her whereabouts. At this point, some people and members of her family would create a Facebook advertisement announcing that she is a missing person and that anybody with information about her should please call some specific phone numbers. This advertisement eventually got noticed by the family friend that Georgina had met whilst she was on the campus for the interview. This friend then prompted Georgina's family that the last person he saw Georgina with was Georgina's sister's boyfriend. So, as is ideal, they should find out from him where Georgina is, because Georgina had told him, the family friend, that this boyfriend of her sister was actually going to drive her back to her destination. So if anybody knows anything about her last whereabouts, it's very likely this would-be brother-in-law would be in a good position to point it out. This pointed everybody into the direction of the brother-in-law, and when he was accosted by the police, this brother-in-law would eventually confess that Georgina had been killed by himself and another man. This became a shocking situation, as this was the last thing that anybody was actually suspecting could have happened. It's however notable that prior to all this, at the time that the family were making frantic efforts to find Georgina, this brother-in-law was part of the search team. He was bringing up suggestions severally, to the point it's alleged that he offered to help liaise with the family and another spiritual person he knew who could help them find the whereabouts of Georgina through some spiritual incantations if they were ready to pay for it. And in Ghana, the amount he quoted in the Ghanaian currency, the Ghana cedi, was 15,000 Ghana cedis. That is about the equivalent of $1,500. Unfortunately, the family declined, and fast forward, this came up that he, the brother-in-law, had now confessed to being party to the killing of Georgina. And the Ghanaian police moved swiftly to the extent that they got this would-be brother-in-law, who is also parading as a pastor, to get them to the crime scene. Now, when they were going to arrest him initially to ask him about the whereabouts of Georgina, they met him in the company of another man whom they didn't know at the time. They were actually drinking together, and then police picked him up, took him to the police station, and then interrogation started, after which this would-be brother-in-law, also a self-styled pastor or man of God, would now mention that he and another person had killed Georgina. So now the question was, where is Georgina and who is this other person? As it will turn out, The other accomplice was the man he was actually sitting and drinking with at the time of his arrest. Just that unfortunately, the police at the time did not know that this man was also an accomplice of his. Unfortunately, however, when they got to know, this accomplice had absconded and taken to flight. Investigations were still ongoing and a search was mounted for him, especially as it turned out that he is not just any ordinary citizen, but rather a chief of a town in the central region. For those of you who are not familiar with the African culture, a chief is like a little king, and he wields a bit of power in his community. A chief actually has subjects who serve under him and a constituent community who also he rules over. So then the question was now begging, what would lead a chief and a pastor who also doubles as the would-be brother-in-law of their would-be victim to kidnap, rape, murder, mutilate, and take parts of the body of this female victim? This story is still unfolding and investigations are currently still ongoing. Now, when this would-be brother-in-law escorted the police back to the central region to arrest the accomplice who is the chief, they didn't get the chief at the time, but then he led them to where Georgina was allegedly buried. And this is the sad part. When they got there, this was not in a remote building or some remote location people wouldn't normally go to. This was in town, in a building in town, a building under construction. That a room within the building was actually even complete and somebody was staying in some way, somehow. The corpse of Georgina had been buried in the next room, which was still under construction. They had dug a hole, buried her in it, and then sealed her over with concrete. And then they had barricaded the door and locked it with padlocks. This is how the young lady's life had ended. Police would move swiftly to find the body and exhume it and convey it to the mortuary. And the hunt for this chief was still ongoing. Fortunately, as at the time of making this video, the chief has been arrested and investigations are still ongoing. Now, we at True Crimes Cafe wish Georgina a peaceful rest, and we are so sad, and we commiserate with the family of Georgina. This was a young lady who just decided to embark on a journey to attend an interview with the hope of gaining admission to become a professional nurse. There was no way she could have known that the boyfriend of her elder sister, who was being nice to her, was actually going to be the one who would connive with another person to have her killed under very gruesome circumstances. Unfortunately, this was what happened. When the family was engaged, her mother indicated that they couldn't have seen this coming. In no way would they have been able to preempt that their would-be son-in-law was capable of doing this. Fortunately, the chief has been arrested and investigations are ongoing. But this is the question I have. Why was she treated in this way? what was the purpose of this murder? I trust the Ghana police will uncover it. Second question, how then are we sure that this is the first time that these two people, that is, the chief and Georgina's sister, have committed such a dastardly act? I'm sure the Ghana police are also going to get into that and any other questions that may come up as this investigation unravels. We are following this case keenly and we will not hesitate to bring you updates as and when they are available. Like I said in the beginning, there is no way you would know what somebody is planning for you, especially when people these days are perfecting the act of being nice. Keep an eye out. Sometimes your paranoia can save your life. Don't trust people just because they are nice to you. And don't think everybody in your close circle has good intents for you. Stay safe out there.